All right. Ready to dive deep into cellular signaling.
Let's do it.
Specifically, we're looking at how our bodies use natural agonists
Okay.
for, all that communication and regulation that's going on.
Yeah.
And we're exploring a research paper for this deep dive.
Right.
It's titled A Comprehensive Exploration of Agonists, Antagonists, and Their Quantum Effect on Cellular Signaling by Paul Leonard and Dr. Mikhail Kozurin.
Interesting.
And, this paper really got me thinking about, what if the key to better health is actually embracing nature's own signaling molecules?
That's a really fascinating question. And I think this paper really challenges the current focus on synthetic drugs.
Right.
And it argues for us to return to understanding the power of natural agonists.
Well, so I guess before we get too far ahead of ourselves, we should probably break down what agonists actually are.
Okay.
I kind of remember from way back in biology class.
Yeah.
They're kind of like keys that fit into specific locks.
Right.
And those locks are called receptors.
Exactly.
Which are on our cells. And then that triggers some kind of response.
That's a great analogy.
Thanks.
And what's really interesting is that there's this huge diversity of these keys out there.
Oh.
So some of them are naturally produced by our bodies,
right.
like dopamine or insulin.
Uh-huh.
And then others are found in nature, think like cannabinoids or even morphine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes me think about something that the authors mentioned, this idea that natural agonists are somehow superior to their synthetic counterparts. Why is that?
Yeah.
Why can't we just recreate these molecules in a lab and get the same effect?
Well, it's not quite that simple.
Okay.
The authors really highlight one key difference, which is conformational flexibility.
Okay, now you're going to have to break that down for me.
Sure. So conformational flexibility essentially means that natural agonists, they can adjust their shape to perfectly fit into that receptor.
So it's not just about fitting in the lock.
Exactly.
It's it has to be the perfect, customized fit.
Right. Think of it like a hand fitting into a glove, A natural agonist can mold itself to all the nuances of the receptor.
Oh, I see.
But a synthetic one might be more like a rigid one-size-fits-all glove.
So with the synthetic ones, it's like we're forcing a square peg into a round hole.
Exactly.
And just hoping for the best.
Yeah, and that lack of flexibility in synthetic agonists, that's where we start to see problems. They often lack the nuanced interactions and feedback mechanisms that natural agonists have, which can lead to those unwanted side effects.
Which makes sense. If it's not a perfect fit, then it's going to cause some damage along the way.
Right, and the paper delves into some specific examples of this.
Like what?
Well, they talk about synthetic opioids.
Okay.
They're very effective at blocking pain, but they can also end up disrupting the body's natural pain regulation system, which can lead to dependence and a whole bunch of other issues.
Okay, so that's conformational flexibility.
Yeah.
But the paper goes even deeper, right?
It does.
Bringing in this concept of quantum biology.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I was reading that section and I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, it's a pretty complex concept.
It made my head spin a little bit. Can you help unpack that for me?
Sure. Essentially, quantum biology is the idea that quantum phenomena, the way that particles behave at a subatomic level, that they actually play a significant role in biological processes.
So even at the tiniest level, there's way more going on than we realize.
Exactly.
Whoa.
And the researchers propose that natural agonists, they might be interacting with receptors in a way that involves these subtle energetic shifts at the quantum level.
So it's like they're fine-tuning the cellular response.
Yes.
In a way that synthetic agonists just can't. That's incredible, but how could we even begin to measure or study something that's so small and complex?
Well, the authors highlight this technique called spectroscopy.
Okay.
And it can actually analyze the light that's emitted from molecules as they interact. And believe it or not, this light can act like a fingerprint.
Wow.
It can reveal a ton of information about the molecule's activity.
So we're not just looking at the molecule itself, we're looking at the light it's emitting as it interacts with its environment.
Yeah, it's a way to actually gain insight into these dynamic processes happening at the molecular level.
That's wild.
Even those subtle energetic shifts that the authors were talking about.
This is incredible. It's like we're opening up a whole new window into the inner workings of our cells.
Exactly. And with this new understanding, we could potentially develop new therapies that actually work in harmony with these natural processes.
Which would lead to
safer and more effective treatments.
Okay, this is all really fascinating. I'm already starting to see why the authors are advocating for this shift in our approach to medicine.
Right.
But I think maybe this is a good place to pause for a moment.
Yeah, I think our listener could probably use a moment to digest all this.
Definitely. Before we dive into the specific examples and potential applications of this research.
Exactly.
So we'll be back in just a moment.
Okay.
To explore, all the really exciting implications of embracing these natural agonists for the future of medicine.
Right.
Don't go anywhere.
We'll be right back. So before the break, we were talking about how natural agonists might be interacting with our cells on a quantum level.
Right. And I'm still wrapping my head around all of that.
It's pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
It's like suddenly realizing that there's this whole other universe happening inside each one of our cells.
Right.
But before we go too far down that rabbit hole, I'm really curious to hear about some more specific examples of these natural agonists, these natural powerhouses.
Yeah. Of course, one example that the authors highlight is succinate.
Succinate, okay.
Now, that might sound familiar because it's a key player in the Krebs cycle.
Oh, yeah, the Krebs cycle.
Which is essentially how our cells produce energy.
Right. I remember learning about that in biology.
Yeah.
But the authors are suggesting that it does even more than that.
Exactly. It turns out that succinate also acts as an agonist for this receptor called GPR91.
GPR91, got it.
And this receptor is found all over the body.
Okay.
It's involved in regulating blood pressure, inflammation, even the formation of new blood vessels.
So this one tiny molecule is involved in both energy production and sending signals that affect all these different bodily functions.
It really is. It's like a cellular multitasker.
Wow, that's amazing.
And here's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
Succinate, being a natural agonist, it's thought to induce those subtle energetic shifts that we talked about.
Oh, right.
And this all ties into this concept of adaptive homeostasis.
Adaptive homeostasis.
Yeah, have you heard of that?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, so it essentially means that our bodies aren't just striving for this fixed state of balance.
Yeah.
They're constantly adapting and fine-tuning their internal environment in response to all these changes and challenges that we're facing.
So it's like our bodies are learning and getting better over time.
Exactly. It's a really dynamic system.
Okay, that's fascinating. So I'm starting to see how this all connects now.
Yeah.
So natural agonists with their flexibility and, their potential quantum effects.
Right.
They're key players in this whole adaptive process.
Exactly. They're helping our bodies respond to challenges in this very nuanced and precise way.
Okay. Whereas using a synthetic agonist is more like, like trying to tune a piano with a hammer.
Exactly. You might get a sound, but it's not going to be very harmonious.
Right. That's a great way to put it. It makes me wonder, though, how are researchers actually studying these complex interactions and these quantum effects?
Right.
Is it even possible to observe those things?
Well, remember that spectroscopy technique we talked about?
Yeah.
It turns out that it can also provide valuable information about a molecule's excited state emissions.
Excited state emissions. What are those?
So essentially, when molecules absorb energy, they can release it as light. And this light, it can actually act like a fingerprint.
Wow.
Revealing all this information about the molecule's activity and interactions.
So we're not just looking at the molecule itself, we're looking at the light that it's emitting as it interacts with its environment.
It's a way to gain insight into those dynamic processes that are happening at the molecular level, even those subtle energetic shifts that the authors were talking about.
This is incredible. It's like we're literally opening up a whole new window into the inner workings of our cells.
It is. It really is. And this new understanding, it has the potential to revolutionize medicine.
In what way?
Imagine being able to diagnose diseases or monitor treatment effectiveness in real time just by analyzing the light emitted from our cells.
Wow.
It sounds like science fiction.
It really does.
But it's becoming a reality.
I'm starting to get really excited about the possibilities here.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff.
But before we get, too carried away, I'm curious, are there any practical examples of this approach being used in medicine today?
There are, and we're going to dive into those in just a moment.
Okay, so we're back.
We are.
Ready to dive into some real-world applications.
Absolutely.
Of this research on natural agonists.
Yeah, one area that's really exciting is pain management.
Pain management, okay.
Think about morphine, for example.
Morphine, okay.
It's a very powerful painkiller.
Yeah.
But it comes with, a lot of significant drawbacks.
Let's go ice.
Addiction and all those side effects.
Right. And sometimes those side effects can feel just as bad as the pain itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes you wonder if there's, a better way.
And that's where this research comes in.
Okay.
Instead of relying solely on those synthetic opioids like morphine, researchers are starting to explore natural agonists that target those same pain pathways, but potentially have, fewer of those negative effects.
So what are some examples of these, like, natural painkillers?
Well, one promising area of research is looking at cannabinoids.
Cannabinoids, okay.
The active compounds that are found in cannabis, they interact with the endocannabinoid system, which plays a role in regulating pain, mood, and inflammation.
So we could potentially tap into the body's own pain-regulating system.
Exactly.
Using these natural agonists.
Yeah, like cannabinoids.
Okay, and is there any evidence to support that?
There's growing evidence. Studies have shown that cannabinoids can be really effective in treating a variety of chronic pain conditions, like neuropathic pain and inflammatory pain.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty promising.
Are there other areas where this research is being applied?
Definitely. Another fascinating area is immune system support.
Immune system, okay.
Remember how we were talking about all those immune cells?
Yeah.
Constantly patrolling and defending our bodies?
It's amazing how our bodies just, fight off all these invaders.
It really is, and it turns out that a lot of natural compounds, like the ones that are found in certain medicinal mushrooms, they can actually act as agonists for receptors on those immune cells.
So instead of always relying on, things like vaccines and antibiotics, which sometimes have their limitations, we could use these natural agonists to actually strengthen our own defenses.
That's the idea, and it goes even further than that.
Okay, how so?
Some researchers are exploring the use of natural agonists to actually target cancer cells.
Oh, wow.
And boost the immune system's ability to recognize and destroy those cancer cells.
That's remarkable. It sounds like this research could potentially shift our entire approach to medicine.
I think so.
From always fighting against disease to working with the body's natural defenses.
That's really the key takeaway here.
Yeah.
By understanding how these natural agonists interact with our bodies, we can develop therapies that support and enhance those natural processes.
Instead of just always treating the symptoms.
Exactly. It's about promoting overall well-being and resilience.
This has been such a thought-provoking deep dive.
It has.
I mean, we've gone from understanding the very basics of agonists to exploring their potential to completely revolutionize medicine.
It's amazing how much we've covered.
Yeah, it really is.
And it's a good reminder that there's still so much that we don't know about the complexities of the human body. And the incredible power of these natural compounds.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface here.
I think so too.
What would you say is the most important message for our listeners to take away from this?
Well, I would say it's to really embrace the complexity and the wisdom of natural systems.
Okay.
Our bodies have evolved over millions of years to interact with the natural world.
Yeah.
And within that world, there's this incredible treasure trove of molecules with amazing potential.
So it's really about challenging the status quo.
It is.
And exploring, what these natural agonists can do to create a healthier future.
Absolutely. And I really encourage everyone to stay curious.
Yeah.
Keep asking questions. And keep exploring this fascinating world of natural medicine.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
I enjoyed it.
We hope you found it as insightful and inspiring as we did.
Me too.
Until next time, keep exploring and stay curious.